At 2:42 a.m., 15 miles off the coast of Bandar Abbas, a BGM-109 Tomahawk cruise missile descends toward the surface. Flying barely 10 feet above the waves, it remains beneath the coverage of Iranian radar. 5 miles ahead, a matte black Iranian patrol boat waits silently on the water. As the Tomahawk races past, a high-speed infrared sensor aboard the boat detects the heat of its engine for only a fraction of a second. That brief signature is enough. An encrypted warning is transmitted to the coastline. Target confirmed. On the cliffs overlooking the port, an Iranian Bavar 373 air defense battery begins calculating an interception path. 2 Sayed-4 missiles leave their launchers and accelerate toward a predicted intercept zone. In 15 seconds, the American missile is expected to fly directly into it. The Tomahawk follows a largely fixed route. It has no onboard radar warning system and almost no ability to make a sudden defensive maneuver. It continues forward, unaware of what is waiting ahead. Moments later, the $2 million missile disappears in a flash, but the interception is only the beginning. Iranian forces rotate their powerful Mirage 4 radar toward the south, extending its search deep into the Gulf. Now they are looking for the aircraft, keeping the American fighters supplied with fuel. They are searching for the flying gas station. At 3:05 a.m., 50 miles from the coast, warning alarms fill the cockpit of a KC-135 Stratotanker, 4F/A-18. Super Hornets are connected to the tanker through long, flexible refueling hoses, taking on fuel one after another so they can remain in the operation. The tanker pilot checks the display. 2 Iranian Sayed-4 missiles are descending from high altitude and rapidly closing the distance. The crew cannot simply turn around. There is no time. The pilot forces the aircraft into a hard left dive, trying to create as much separation as possible before the missiles arrive. At the same instant, the fighter pilots activate the emergency disconnect system. The dry brake valves seal immediately. Only a thin cloud of freezing fuel escapes before the metal refueling probes separate from the aircraft. The Super Hornets ignite their afterburners and enter a 7G defensive turn. The force pushes the pilots deep into their seats, narrowing their vision and placing enormous strain on their bodies. One of the Iranian missiles does not need to strike a fighter. It detonates 100 feet above the tanker. Its payload bursts outward and the night sky flickers like a giant strobe light. For 5 full seconds, the American pilots are unable to see what lies ahead. The fighters descend through the darkness, dropping rapidly toward the ocean in an attempt to pass beneath the expanding debris field. Once they reach low altitude, they believe the immediate danger has passed. But Iranian forces are no longer relying only on conventional radar. A passive detection network is listening to the radio, television, and mobile phone signals already moving through the atmosphere. It works like a spider resting at the center of a web. The spider may not see the fly, but it feels every vibration traveling through the silk. The American aircraft are the flies. The Iranian coastline is the web. Without warning, the water beneath the fighters erupts. A third Cordad missile system has been concealed on the deck of a 400-foot civilian freighter. From a distance, the ship appears to be an ordinary merchant vessel. But as the American fighters pass overhead, the covering tarp is thrown aside and the launcher is revealed. The lead aircraft has almost no time to react. The missile accelerates to nearly 3,000 miles per hour. Because it approaches from directly below, the pilot's warning system provides barely half a second of notice. The F/A-18 is struck underneath. Its engines lose thrust. The flight computers shut down, and the 30-ton aircraft becomes uncontrollable, skipping across the surface of the water like a stone. 1 aircraft is gone. 3 remain. And the Iranian batteries are not aiming only at the fighters themselves. They are aiming at the air directly ahead of them. A second group of missiles detonates roughly 1 mile in front of the remaining aircraft. Their fragmentation payloads release 10,000 dense tungsten pellets into the fighter's path. At the speed the jets are traveling, contact with even one of those pellets can deliver an impact comparable to a tank round. If even one of those metal spheres enters an engine, the internal turbine blades can fracture almost instantly. The American pilots are boxed in. Behind them, the tanker is surrounded by smoke and fire. Below them, disguised freighters are waiting. Ahead of them, the air itself has become a dangerous barrier of high-speed metal. At the same time, 60 Zulfikar fast attack boats emerge from reinforced shelters built into the Iranian coastline. The U.S. destroyer reacts immediately. Its phalanx close-in weapon system comes online. This is the ship's final defensive layer, capable of creating a dense stream of fire against anything approaching at close range. The first 3 Iranian boats are disabled within seconds, but those leading vessels were unmanned decoys. Their purpose was not to reach the destroyer. They were sent forward to absorb its defensive ammunition and create an opening for the next phase. The phalanx system has one critical limitation. Its magazine carries only 1,550 rounds. During continuous fire, that supply can be exhausted in less than 20 seconds. Then, the weapon falls silent. It must be reloaded, and that requires time the crew may not have. 10 Zulfika boats appear through the smoke, but they are not carrying large anti-ship missiles. A vessel that's small cannot safely launch a 20-foot cruise missile from such a short distance. Instead, these boats are acting as forward observers. Using high-speed data links, they transmit the destroyer's precise location back to launch teams hidden along the coast. Moments later, Iranian mobile launchers positioned inside the cliffs release 6 Nor anti-ship missiles. Because the missiles begin their journey from land, they have enough open water to accelerate towards 600 miles per hour and activate their onboard targeting systems. Their arrival has been carefully timed. They are approaching at the exact moment the destroyer's primary close-range defense is empty. Warning alarms echo across every deck of the American ship. The crew brings the Mark 38 25mm guns into action. 4 incoming missiles are intercepted. A 5th loses its path and strikes the water. The 6th continues forward. It reaches the destroyer just above the waterline. The Nor uses a delayed action system. It passes through approximately 2 inches of steel, travels nearly 15 feet into the ship's galley section, and releases its payload inside the hull. The impact opens a 20-foot breach in the side of the vessel. The destroyer remains afloat, but it is severely damaged. A powerful pressure wave moves through the ship, disrupting electrical systems and equipment across multiple compartments. Then the destroyer's main air defense radar begins to flicker. This is the system responsible for tracking threats and supporting the aircraft overhead. A moment later, the screen goes dark. While emergency teams work to contain fires near the rear deck, the remaining F/A-18 Super Hornets race through the night. The American commander now faces an urgent decision. Unless the Iranian radar network is disabled immediately, the remaining aircraft may be intercepted one after another. Authorization is given for a suppression mission. High above the Gulf, the Super Hornets lower their noses and release a coordinated group of AGM-88 HARM missiles. At almost the same moment, 2 American submarines operating beneath the deeper waters of the Gulf of Oman launched 10B GM-109 Tomahawk cruise missiles. The strategy appears straightforward. Disable the Iranian surveillance network and the entire defensive system loses its ability to coordinate. The missiles are only 30 seconds from the coastline. Then the situation changes. Instead of disappearing, the signals on the Iranian radar displays appear to multiply. Iranian forces have activated decoy emitters. These devices are not real radar stations. They simply reproduce the electronic signature of an S-300 air defense battery. The AGM-88 missiles detect the false signals and begin moving away from their original targets. But the decoys are only the first layer. Iranian electronic warfare units activate an even more disruptive system, a coordinated GPS spoofing operation. American ships, aircraft, and guided missiles rely heavily on satellite signals to determine their exact positions. Hidden in the mountains behind the port, a powerful transmitter begins broadcasting false navigation data. The artificial signal is 10 times stronger than the genuine signal arriving from orbit. Almost instantly, the destroyer's navigation computer reports that the ship has somehow moved 20 miles inland. The BGM-109 Tomahawks receive the same corrupted information. Their guidance systems attempt to correct their routes, steering away from mountains that exist only inside their computers. The American fleet can no longer see the opposing forces, and its crews are no longer certain of their own position. That is the moment the crisis takes an even darker turn. An American MQ-9 Reaper drone is circling at 15,000 feet, capturing the battle through its high-resolution cameras. Without warning, the satellite connection linking it to operators in Nevada dissolves into static. A powerful ground-based jammer has overwhelmed the signal. At the same time, the drone begins accepting false navigation data from the Iranian GPS spoofing network. The artificial coordinates have been carefully manipulated, convincing the aircraft that its home location is directly beneath it. But that location is exactly where the damaged American destroyer is sitting. The MQ-9 Reaper, carrying 4 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles beneath its wings, lowers its nose and begins descending. The American crew is now being forced to defend the ship from its own equipment. Moving at nearly 200 miles per hour, the compromised drone is rapidly closing the distance. The destroyer's primary air defense radar remains offline after the earlier missile impact, leaving the crew with no choice but to operate manually. They reactivate the Phalanx close-in weapon system. A concentrated burst of dense tungsten rounds crosses the sky and strikes the drone's fuel tank. The MQ-9 disappears from the display. In a matter of seconds, the United States has lost its own surveillance platform. Iranian commanders observe what has happened and decide the destroyer is ready for the final phase. Heavy coastal batteries begin preparing for another coordinated strike. Then the ghost appears. Across every Iranian radar station, from the coastline to the mountain installations, an enormous signal suddenly fills the screens. It carries the exact electronic signature of a B-1B Lancer strategic bomber. To the Iranian operators, it appears that a giant 4-engine aircraft is approaching at nearly 900 miles per hour. The entire defense network reacts. S-300 and Bavar 373 long-range batteries activate at once. 4 Sayed-4 missiles rise into the night and begin tracking the enormous radar signature. The missiles reach the target. The signal disappears in a brilliant flash. For a brief moment, the Iranian crews believe they have brought down one of America's most recognizable strategic aircraft. But no debris appears. There was never a bomber. The target was an ADM-160 MALD, a miniature air-launched decoy released by the remaining F/A-18 Super Hornets shortly before they were forced to withdraw. The ADM-160 is designed to imitate the radar signature of a much larger aircraft and broadcast that false identity to opposing sensors. It is an electronic illusion. Iranian forces have just used some of their most valuable and limited interceptors against a recorded signal. More importantly, every heavy engagement radar that activated to track the false bomber has revealed its exact location. The American forces now have a map. Far beyond the reach of the coastal spoofing towers, the USS Florida waits beneath the deep water outside the strait. The Ohio-class submarine is built for silent operations and can carry as many as 154 cruise missiles at a time. Its launch hatches open. Using compressed air, 40 BGM-109 Tomahawk missiles are pushed into the dark water. They rise to the surface, ignite their engines, and divide into 2 coordinated groups. The first group targets the port's central support network. Its objectives are the large fuel storage tanks and pumping stations that keep the harbor operating. 1 BGM-109 reaches the primary fuel tank near the base of the pier. The harbor remains standing, but its ability to function is severely limited. Ships can no longer dock safely, and the refueling network is no longer operational. The second group carries D-model payloads. Rather than releasing one concentrated impact, these BGM-109 missiles open their lower compartments while passing over the Iranian missile positions. Each missile disperses 166 small submunitions across an area roughly equal to 3 football fields. The canister-sized devices spread across the ground, damaging the tires of mobile launchers, piercing the lightweight surfaces of radar equipment, and setting exposed rocket fuel alight. One after another, the S-300 radar stations disappear from the network. Passive detection towers fall silent. A Tomahawk reaches the spoofing transmitter at the center of the port, and the towering structure collapses like a massive tree. Almost instantly, the American destroyer's navigation display stabilizes. The false coordinates vanish. The genuine GPS signal returns. Iranian commanders now understand that the port can no longer be defended, but before withdrawing, they prepare one final move. Iranian forces attempt one final maneuver. They begin preparing a massive tanker for deliberate sinking in the center of the harbor entrance. The goal is simple: block the shipping channel and prevent American forces from using the port for months. But the response comes first: a final BGM-109. Tomahawk strikes the tanker's steering mechanism at the rear of the vessel. The ship immediately loses its ability to change direction and begins drifting with the tide. Its engines, however, are still running at full power. With no steering control, the enormous tanker continues forward and heads directly toward the Iranian Navy's inner docks. The impact is unavoidable. The tanker plows into a group of Iranian fast attack boats, pinning 20 of them against the seawall before the vessel finally comes to rest. Bandar Abbas is no longer functioning as a naval base. It has become a field of damaged ships, broken equipment, and blocked infrastructure. As the first sunlight appears over the Gulf, one conclusion becomes impossible to ignore. The Iranian defense was coordinated, adaptive, and far more effective than expected. Its operators understood how to combine coastal missiles, hidden launchers, electronic interference, decoys, and passive detection into one defensive network. They came remarkably close to controlling the entire engagement, and that may be the most unsettling detail of all. Behind closed doors, American naval planners are left with one question: what would have happened if the Iranian radar crews had waited only 30 seconds longer? The false bomber was a calculated gamble. It succeeded because Iranian operators believed they had been given an opportunity to intercept a major American aircraft. Their most powerful radars came online, revealing the positions of the hidden batteries. But suppose they had remained silent. Suppose they had allowed the signal to pass overhead without reacting and kept their primary systems concealed. The real missile wave from the USS Florida would have approached without a complete targeting picture. The Tomahawks might not have known the precise locations of the protected radar sites and underground positions. Their onboard sensors would have had far fewer confirmed targets to identify. In modern naval operations, the first side to reveal its position often gives away the advantage. Iranian forces broke their silence because they believed a valuable target was within reach. Their desire to claim that target exposed the defensive network and ultimately cost them control of their most important port. But the larger question remains. The next time American forces encounter a defensive barrier like this, will the opposing crews react with the same urgency? Or will they remain hidden, watching quietly until the aircraft and ships are too close to change course? In the next major confrontation, the most powerful weapon may not be a missile, an aircraft, or a radar system. It may simply be silence.